Amore mio, just a few more days, and we will be far away from here. I have everything prepared. The train will take us to Palermo, and then we'll board the ship to America. Make sure you're ready to leave. I will see you soon. Until then, hold tight. Enzo.
What's going on, everybody? Spoilercast back with another new video and another special video for two reasons. I have a very, very special guest today by the name of Alex from Podcast Now. How's it going, Alex?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining me. This is kind of like spur of the moment. We set this up because I seen his review and I was like, oh, wow, he liked it just as much as I did. So I wanted to do a spoiler cast, but I figured it'd be better with two people kind of, doing the back and forth thing. So I guess the first question I'd start would be, at what moment in the game did you realize this is going to be something special, like, story-wise?
Pretty early. I think probably when the Don saves you from when you're escaping the mine. The very tense, like when you're in that shed or whatever, right? Like the barn. And he just has kind of like that aura where it's like, and not only is that a cool introduction to him, it shows like, that's his territory, right? Whatever happens on that territory is up to him. So you wound up there, therefore you're under his protection. So, I mean, it was a cool plot device, and it made him intimidating. But I think right then and there was like, oh, okay, this is a pretty, it feels good. And I really don't think it took me all that long. I mean, I would say right then and there, I think a couple missions in was when they did the Uncharted, like, horseback thing, like jumping from the horse to, I think that was maybe, at 2, 3, 4 hours in. That was probably where it's like, okay, they've really done a good job of blending the cinematic story and then also having some cooler, action-y things than we've ever really seen from Mafia before. So I'd say it only took not even a quarter of the game, I would say, to realize that this would probably be one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And mine probably happened much earlier, I would say. But to piggyback off what you said, that scene in the barn where the Don comes in, a very terrifying man, okay, this Don. And I actually just started last night replaying it in Sicilian for my hard playthrough. Just as terrifying, if not more terrifying in Sicilian. So... But yeah, the mission you're talking about where you're on horseback, you go from car to horse, that was the one where you're going after Isabella, correct?
Yeah,
that was freaking awesome. What a roller coaster ride that was.
And even like the first, like the second mission, they do like a long, the one where you're checking in on people, which is very, very early, right? They have so many moments of just like look around, like, you're on and you're kind of going slow, so you're able to look at the mountains and look at like the lighting and all that stuff. That's when I was like, oh, this, I think the previews kind of went back and forth with like, is this really gonna be that visually amazing? And about an hour in, you're like, oh my dear God, this is one of the prettier games that's out.
Correct. And for me, it almost happened immediately. Like when you start the game and it says Cecilia, and then you just kind of hear the lamp go on.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden you're in the dark cave, and just how stunning that looked and it transitioning into gameplay was like, did Rockstar make this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And not to say it eclipses anything they've done, but it was very deliberate in the way that they transitioned from cutscene to gameplay and back to it. Now, I'd say when it really actually got me, though, after that incredible intro where you ride off on the horse and it just transitions into like the opening credits with beautiful shots. I love that. The part where, you're in the barn and the Spadardos come after you, and then the Don comes in. He's like, this is my land, whatever. And then you're riding with Luca back to the vineyard.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, holy God. Like, It was kind of sunset. And I know it was like, linear and like put in place for a reason. But there's a part where like a truck turns a corner as you're turning the corner, and a guy comes by you on just trotting on a horse, and that whole like feeling right there, I was like, oh, they've done it.
Yeah.
Another thing too, and we'll get a little bit more into this, but the pacing I feel like was just kind of perfect.
Yeah.
You know, that was my biggest thing going into this game, because I'm a longtime Mafia fan, and each one, even though they're great, even I'd say three is great if you take out all the filler. Uh, they've struggled with pacing issues, and I know you've just played through them, all three of them recently. So have I. So, what did you feel about the pacing?
Yeah, that's why I think, look, everybody's opinion's valid. I know some people still prefer other ones compared to this one. Having played 1, 2, 3 in the last 2 months, like all three of them in that time, this easily has the best pacing. Like I said in my review, I think just the build up, the very deliberate build up of everything. When you're having a conversation with Luca, it's important. When you have a conversation with Isabella, and you don't have that many, right? But each one and each kind of tedious task that you're doing towards the beginning, each one is building this. Okay, you're getting a little bit more trusted. You're you're doing a little bit better, and you're rising up. And they didn't do, like I've said before, like 1 and 2 are amazing games and amazing stories, but they rush certain elements of it. I think to get to the rise and fall generally is rushed, generally is like a montage. And this game literally did. I mean, there was a little at the end. They skip a couple weeks where Enzo is off and he's getting the stuff ready, right, for the train and the boat and all that stuff. So they do skip that, and it quickly jumps from like, okay, you're gonna leave, and then it's like, oh, okay, now you're about to leave, and people notice that you've been missing, right? You haven't been around. That was the only time, and that was like a 2-week stretch. They kind of just skipped through. But beyond that, everything I think was so deliberate. I feel like is the right word, and that's a huge reason to me why this game is better, because even if the story you might feel are pretty on the same level with 1 and 2, or the characters, which I think would be reasonable. I think this one just had better purpose, and you felt the things, and they did a little bit better job pacing everything versus they in 1 and 2, again, the rise and fall of Tommy and Vito and Joe, they did it through montages, and you didn't have that here.
Right, yeah. And you're talking about towards the end when he shows up and he's got he hadn't shaven in 2 weeks, that part, right?
Yeah. And they say, sure. You've been I think Cesare says, like, I'm not the only one who's noticed, that you haven't been around. Right. And that, they kind of imply it's like a 2-3 week stretch where you're getting your affairs in order. That's where Leo gives you the the first time, I guess, you probably talk to him to get ready with the tickets and stuff. Yeah. So they jump over that, but I mean, it wasn't that interesting. There's really nothing that's going on there.
No, and like, okay, I actually watched The Godfather last night, right? And it's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah.
And I kind of put it on to see if I could find, like inspirations. I've done this in the years past with the other Mafia games, but I feel like they stole it, but like were very much inspired by the pacing of that movie, because that movie is paced extremely well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I actually forgot about the whole part where Michael goes to Sicily, So we kind of it was like that scene was different from the stuff in New York, whereas it was playing like, Sicilian music in the background and very slow, but like it mattered to the story, right? So that's kind of a side note, but yeah, I think like in the past, like how you said with the montages and whatnot, like why couldn't have we like, in Mafia 2, why couldn't we have like went on drug deals instead of seeing them in a, you know what I'm saying? Like instead of seeing them in a cutscene.
Yeah.
Their rise, I would have liked to have played through. And in this one, you very much do. And you see the growth of every character, really. Even like Cesare, he's a douche to you in the beginning, but you end up becoming best friends now. At the ending, I don't know where they kind of left that up to interpretation. We'll get more back into the ending in a little bit, but yeah, I think they really, really nailed it this time. And I would have to say this is, I mean, you could have your favorites or whatever, but for me, the way that the game was paced and how high quality the story is, it's the best game in the series, I'd have to say.
I agree.
What I was gonna say, what would be your top 3 favorite missions, but if you can't come up with 3, just give me your favorite.
Okay. I think the parade is number one, or the assassination, and then you have to go after him. That was pretty freaking sweet. I would say the opera kind of had that build up. I mean, it was so stealth heavy, but I did probably appreciate that quite a bit. And then the final mission just looks so beautiful. Like, I just took some time to, whenever there weren't waves of enemies, I was looking around at the mountain, like the volcano, right? Because everything would just be on fire and stuff, and it just looks so freaking cool. I think it'd be something along that. I mean, and that the car chase was good. I mean, it was stiff. It's got that Mafia stiffness to it. But that would probably be like a top 4 even. But I think the assassination one, it had that Uncharted-like thing. It had you could tell it was coming, like just some of the shots, and when they were taking the picture, it's like, okay, somebody's gonna get shot. I thought Luca was gonna die right then and there. That's where I thought he would die. So I was ready for that later, But that was probably my favorite. I mean, that was a good one too, right? When everything turns, Luca gets shot. That was kind of just a basic. You're just taking out waves of enemies. That was a great scene, part of the story. But yeah, I don't know if I would say that's my favorite mission.
Yeah, man, it's kind of funny. We're kind of on the same page. I would have to say the assassination one too, just because you and I are huge fans of Uncharted, and we haven't had anything like that in a long time. And in that era that it's set, it made it like feel different. It wasn't like copy and paste. Like, you could see the influence, but it was just so cool. Like jumping through the windows and it wasn't like short, and it wasn't too long. Like, it was just so perfect. And I believe Cesare is the only one that gets shot in that, right? He gets shot in the leg.
Yep.
Or does someone else die?
The one, I forget his name. Maybe not George. Roberto. Maybe that was the name. There was a couple like side gang people.
Not big characters. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, like, some of them were mentioned. They'd be like the third string or third tier down. It was somebody that they had mentioned before, but I think it was more of the shock of like, he gets shot, just part of the picture group, right? Like I said, I really thought, because it was Luca's kid's baptism, right? And it was like, and he was standing right next to him. I believe he was the next one over. So I was like, I was scared. I was like, okay, I was getting ready, because Luca has to die. He's him and Enzo kind of have too good of a thing going with each other. So I was ready for that. And then, he didn't get sniped, and I was like, oh, thank God, It
was like Paulie, in the first one. You just kind of see it written on the wall. These Mafia tales never end well. Usually. So but yeah, I would say definitely that assassination mission was freaking awesome. The one where Luca and the Don get shot, and Leo's it's his dad, right, or grandpa? When that was like, whoa, what the heck? I wasn't prepared for that.
I was ready for that one. I was ready for, because it just had, that was kind of, I think, the cliche. You're invited to a meeting, and
someone's going. I just didn't expect it to be him. That's all.
Oh yeah.
But I would say also, you mentioned something about Luca's children, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But I would say the race scene actually was one of my favorites. I was dreading that mission because I knew it was coming, and we all know the meme about the original game with the race, how difficult it is. And I still haven't got there on hard, but what I took away from that mission was it was so much more cinematic. I was not expecting. Like, the part where you try to take a shortcut and you're going through the water, and then the fuel line disconnects and Cesare is out there on the hood, like fixing it. Like, it was just so cool and unexpected. I had a blast with that. Yeah,
the races it was long. I think, because I recorded almost everything that I played, and I want to say, I mean, there was the horse, and then like the driving one was maybe like 9 minutes long. Like, it was a long. And it was more of like the Mario Kart world versus Mario Kart 8, where you're not necessarily doing like the same thing, just lapping a small little thing over and over. You're going through quite a bit. And I think I said in my review too. Yeah, and some of the chases in this game, like, I don't think they're amazing. I still don't think they've reached like that. But you're kind of limited with the cars and the movement and stuff. But a lot of times, characters would just get like hit off the road, right? Or like something would randomly happen almost, which I appreciated. It wasn't always about just passing somebody, right? Sometimes it was somebody just crashed or some engine blew up or whatever, and you can go by them. So I liked that.
Yeah. And I'd have to say, too, I don't know if you agree with me, but speaking of the race, I think the way the cars drive in this and feel are, like, perfect. Like, the best in the series.
Ooh. I think they feel the most authentic. I think 3...
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean.
I think 3 had the best feel because it was the most, modern. This felt like a more refined version of 1, which is difficult. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's very like, this is what a car is going to drive like in 1906, and you can't make a Hyundai nowadays. So it's like you're going to drive how it felt, to drive back then.
Right, for sure. And I'd also say when it comes to missions, I'd say anything that Isabella was in. She's just such a standout character. I don't know who that voice actress is, but she nailed it. She was awesome.
Yeah, I liked her. She did a really good, right from the beginning. She kind of had that stare with Enzo where and even towards the end? Or no, it was towards, I guess, the beginning when they're going, I think, to do the photograph when you get to take the picture, or she says something like, you're the only one who speaks to me like I'm a human. Like that, whatever that line was, that was a really, and that, and that, like I said in my review, or my spoiler cast even, that dynamic between them where Enzo really taught her, like he gave her character traits that took away from him. Because, as the game goes, he loses a lot of that humanity, but he gave it to her in the beginning, so she's able to kind of pull him back, towards the end of the game where he's lost a lot of those characteristics she fell in love with. So I love that, she's not given a ton to do, but she's definitely a really great character in that, like you have the freedom to choose, and then eventually he loses that belief because he, becomes part of the family, or he thinks he is, So I like how they grew Enzo's character kind of through Enzo and Isabella.
For sure. And it was kind of emotionally impactful for me too, because I've been in relationships similar to that. You know what I'm saying? Not like mafioso stuff, but just that similar type of like roller coaster that you go through. So it really kind of pulls at the heartstrings if you ever been through anything like that. Earlier you mentioned. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something?
No, I've never been through it, but it was a nice, not a nice feeling. I liked the roller coaster of like, will they, won't they? Of like, she has like the arranged marriage, and then that's the family that freaking betrays everybody, right? The Baron and all that. And then it's dropped again that, his son is going to marry her. So it's like, shoot. So now, she's off the market again. So that kind of will they, won't they, back forth. Sometimes it was annoying because I just wanted Enzo to like say it to somebody.
Dude.
But the idea of like she's right there, but she's locked away, by her dad making the choice for her. They kind of went back and forth with that a few times.
I was like screaming at my TV at moments. Like Enzo, just tell him. Like there were so many moments where he could have told him.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it was already too late, because not only are you telling him that you're in love with his daughter, she's pregnant. So the Don, especially in those days, I know quite a bit about how the Mafia runs, and there's been made guys that have married the Don's daughter, and as long as you treat her good, everything's fine, right? But I don't know about back then how it would have been received,
they played around with who is he, right? And that he can't change. Well, that's what the Don told him, right, as he was dying, is you can't change. They really always viewed him as a mind boy. And I like that. I think that's very tragic. That's very cruel. But I think that fixes, because there were times the same thing. Now, I wasn't screaming, but there's times where you'd be like, you're in the room with him. This was not even when she was pregnant. This was like, he would do this high mission, and he was the only one who could do it, and he pulled it off, right? Whatever the mission was. And he ends up being in an office with Don, and it's like, can't you tell him? But then, and you have that frustration, as a player, but then at the end of the game, you realize you could have told him anytime, and he always would have. I don't think he would have killed you, because that wasn't the point. But I mean, he would have done some, he wouldn't have allowed it. He would absolutely at no point in the entire game, because the whole point, right, is Enzo's building up. He keeps telling Isabella, after I do this, I'll gain his trust, and we'll do this, we'll do that. The quick answer is no. That would have never happened. You could have told him at any point, and it never would have happened because you're not, like, the background is not what he was looking for. I don't think he would have been sentenced to death in the way that it happened, so they could have avoided that one, but he would never have been able to get with her. And I think that's, you talk about the ending being tragic with Enzo just in general of what happens to him, but that's a pretty tragic one too, that there's this belief the whole time by him that, okay, eventually he'll just give me permission. No, he was never going to give you permission.
No, I agree. And, like I was saying, in real life in the past, there's been times where they've been married off to made men or whatever, but like it also depends on the Don, and like I never got a feeling that he would have accepted it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And his true colors really like he was a very kind man, but it was all about him.
Yeah.
He was very selfish too. Like it was all about his business, which obviously was the purpose of them writing it the way that they did, and I don't knock it at all for that.
Yeah.
It's just tragic viewing it.
I think
what I'm saying?
everything was purposeful like that.
Yeah.
That was a theme throughout the whole game that I think that answered it for me, because I think, you can bring up, there's frustration, like I think people were saying going in, there's tropes or cliches about it. Because there is this feeling where it's like, all right, why don't you say, like in a show or a movie or a game, like when characters just don't talk to each other, and it's like, okay, just communicating would solve the issue. In this case, you feel like that the whole game, but at the end you realize, oh no, it never actually would have mattered. So, they kind of strung you along, but technically they did it because Enzo did have this belief, and that probably was his best bet, because he never stood a chance getting that approval no matter what. So it served as like a plot device kind of thing too.
And also, now that you brought up that, it kind of makes me think, I didn't think about it, but I mean, Isabella said often that she didn't feel part of a family or anything anymore.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not really any scene where the Don and Isabella talk, is there? He
introduces her when Enzo gets there for that banquet, and that's pretty sure that's it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So she was very disconnected, obviously, from him, and him from her.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're gonna get to the ending here pretty soon, but I did want to bring up one thing because you brought it up earlier. Now the developers said that there was 4 characters returning, and some would be in your face, some you'd have to look for. Now there's 3 that are easily, I mean, if you played the other games, Leo, Frank, Vinci, and Salvatore. Did you catch the 4th one?
No, I did not. Did you?
Yeah, I actually did, but it took me almost to the very end. Okay, so and he's only mentioned by name at least maybe once or twice. All right, and it's so during Luca's baptism. I think it's Isabella that mentions that Samuel will have a new brother. Okay, and I didn't think anything about it until you go back much later after Luca dies and visit his grave, and you see his last name, and it's Trapani, which the older son is Sam from Mafia 1.
Oh my god.
And he was probably 8 or 10 at the time, because they only show him one time at the baptism.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people have caught that. I was looking the whole time, like I had it in my mind that maybe she was pregnant with Tommy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that would be the 4th character. But no, I mean that still could be a thing, but I think it'd be too kind of ironic because him and Sam meet later or whatever. But I was pretty surprised that was the 4th character. Wasn't expecting it and expecting it to be done in that way.
Yeah. They did a good, I mean, they didn't really need, just having like Empire Bay, having this America to Italy, kind of connection. They didn't really need anything. Those were just cool. Some of them are more in your face, but I think they did a good job making it standalone and then also connected to like, the larger world.
Yeah, there was even a newspaper, one of the newspapers you pick up, and it specifically talks about New Bordeaux.
I saw that.
So
that one I saw. That one I did see.
Yeah.
I paused at that and I said, "Oh, that's a cool one." Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Going into this when it was first announced, I thought they were gonna play it safe and do like a origin of, oh, why is his name escaping me? Don Salieri and Frank,
Oh yeah.
but 'cause that's heavily talked about, in the definitive edition. But that would have been predictable, because they're both alive. So I'm
Yeah.
glad they went this route. But getting to that ending though, I think the moment you're like, oh crap, was that moment that you said that comes back and he was gone for weeks and he was setting up the escape or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, from there, for me, it was like it gave me like old school vibes, like 360 era. Like I don't know if you felt this way back in those days, but when the games were shorter and when you're getting to the end and you kind of don't want it to. You kind of don't want to play it because you don't want it to end, but then you're so hooked into it that you have to finish it.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Yeah, you could see the end coming, and I don't know if I said it in my spoiler cast or I think the spoiler cast, like the volcano I did call, and I was really proud of myself that the explosion that would happen every time they did the year, and they would jump forward and you would hear that I thought I would pause and I would say to myself and my dogs, I would say, that's a volcano, isn't it? And because they mention it when they're in the mines, in the very beginning, they talk about it just a little, and it's like, yeah, I think that thing's gonna go off, and that because I was trying to think like, even when you get captured, right? So when they find you at the train, I was thinking, all right, you're screwed. You are like entirely, but it's so dark, like cloudy, right? Like it looks like a storm, but it's also connected to the volcano, and it's like, okay, it's gonna happen. And so yeah, there's just this impending, like everything is gonna go wrong, which is, I'd say, a little bit like you think about 1 and 2. See, 3 is just so different. I mean, if people say, oh, you never talk about 3, it's so wildly, I feel like, just out there. But like 1 and 2, I think had a slower decline, or it would happen, but it wouldn't be so far at the end of the story, right? 1 and 2 kind of had a little time to let that decline hit you. In this one, it's like, nope, you keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. You're awarded the mine, and then after that, you're out. You want to be out, and then all the stuff happens with the volcano. But loved it. I mean, it was cliche. They're gonna meet you at the train and cut you off. As soon as he gave her the note, right? And he said, like, everything I've always wanted to say to you is here. And it's like, oh my dear God, of course he's gonna. He could get shot in the head 5 seconds later, and that would be like a cliche thing. So I knew the second he said that, right? It's like, okay, they're gonna get cut off at the train.
Yeah. Now for me, I actually. I'm really good at reading game stories and stuff, but you got that before I did because I didn't even think about it until I heard you say it in your spoiler cast.
The volcano?
The noise
Yeah.
every time it jumps.
The very first time I felt I was onto it, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one because I called it in my head. I mean, I have no documentation, but the very first time I thought that's the volcano that's erupting, and they keep playing. And if you notice, the final shot on Enzo as he's dying, you hear that same noise. So it's almost it's almost like this weird, like past, present, future type. I really like that.
I didn't catch it until that moment when Enzo was dying. I was like, oh, that's what see, in my head, I was thinking it was him in this nightmare of reliving his friend getting crushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I thought the sounds were, but yeah, you nailed it. You got it. I got to give you respect for that.
I don't get many. I don't get many things, so I want to.
I think when the Dawn tells him he's taking over the mine and the look on Enzo's face, I was like, oh no. Like, yep, it's done. And I didn't expect that to happen either,
Yeah.
Because he's thinking in his head out. He doesn't say it, but you know what he's thinking. He's thinking, those are my friends. I was there. I don't want to like be this Spadardo guy. I don't want to rule it like that.
At that point, he wants out. And I think they did a really good job of choreographing. Like, he wants out. He really, really wants out. He's waiting for the prime moment, and then he freaking gets awarded an Enterprise, and it's like, shoot, not only that, like, that's the first thing I thought too, where it's like, how could you do that to that guy, because it's like, he was one of them, and now he has to like control them. He wouldn't even be cool with that, I don't feel, even if that was like given to him 4 years ago, right? But then in his head he's thinking, I want to leave, like, and you just gave me a freaking money maker. It's like, I don't want to be here. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, leading up to the end, like you said, with the volcano and how beautiful that whole scene was, I totally agree. And a little cliche, you're fighting the guy during a volcano, whatever. But I think that volcano also served as like the entirety of the story coming to an head.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, that volcano eruption actually happened in Sicily in 1907. So
Ah. It
if
could.
you knew, I didn't know that before, but I was like, all right, that because just from that beginning shot when you see it smoking when you come out of the
Yeah.
cave, there's no way that's not going to erupt in the game. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I
So I had
figured
to
it
look it
kind
up.
of had
Okay,
to be I was thinking, yeah, is it real life? I didn't actually check, so I'm glad you checked. But I felt, yeah, I feel like they would go based off historical, so I felt that was real. Even thematically, isn't it not kind of cool? Where it's like this building of tension, building,
Yep.
erupts, right? I mean, it very cliche that it matches the buildup of Enzo breaking with the family, but beautiful, and I think well done.
Yeah, yeah, and I researched it, and I was like, wow, like that actually happened, and it could have, let's say that was a true story. It was so devastating. There was like 13 eruptions in like 4 days. So, and it did destroy like villas, and it heavily messed up the island. So, and the end, all right. So first we got to talk about Cesare, um, which for me was like like I don't want to say it was bad, but it just didn't make sense. Now, it can be up to interpretation. I took it as like Enzo had to die because he knew if he got away, they would chase him to the ends of the earth. No, wherever he went, he wouldn't be safe.
Mm,
But with the Dawn being gone and pretty much the entire mob,
yeah.
we didn't know that at that point, right? Because we'll get to that in a minute. But how did you take Cesare killing Enzo?
Well, you see it coming. As soon as he reappeared and he offered him his hand, I thought he's gonna get stabbed. And then when he goes for the hug, okay, that's a stabbing. You've seen enough horror movies or whatever. That's where a character gets killed when they don't expect it. So I knew it was gonna happen. And then yeah, it's like, man, he just had that nice moment where Enzo says to him, we're friends. That's why he didn't kill him 5 minutes ago. So it's like, you would hate to see it. He didn't reciprocate that favor, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's one that I was thinking. It's tough because like he gives he gives the freaking tickets to Isabella. And I mean,
Yeah,
but like the
both of them.
look in his eye, at the end, like maybe he thought that the villa was still standing, like he had some. Because the issue is, right, like you just said, I mean, I looked at it similarly, but a little different. I thought, okay, well, if he doesn't kill Enzo and anybody knows that, he's in massive trouble. But then it's like, well, he's not fighting for anything anymore. When he goes back to the villa, it's destroyed. The hierarchy is destroyed, right? Like you took out the top two. Isabella took out one and Enzo took out one. So there is no chain. Their entire business was wine. They said that in the beginning, right? Like that was their main moneymaker. It's completely gone. So he has nothing. So it's like, killing Enzo, maybe he just proves something to him where it's like, I have to, maybe it's like that shred of belief that honor and code still does apply. Like he's not going to let Enzo get away with that, right? That's the only...
Right.
I think that makes sense in his head, where it's like this is because he tells him that when they're riding on the horse and he tells him to get off like before it all starts. He says like this is the code. You broke it, like that. Like that's it, and that's true,
Yeah.
right? It's like so. Although
Yep.
nobody's watching him, nobody's policing him, and there is no chain anymore. Maybe he believes in that code so much that he still does it, and then he's like, well, Isabella, she deserves that life. I'm going to get her out of here. But he's fighting for nothing, besides
Right.
pride or the family code. Like that's really it. So
But if you think about it too, and this just popped in my head, at that moment, when he kills Enzo, he's seen his uncle dead, so he is the Don. He became Don Teresi right there,
true, yeah.
Um, and like you said, he might have not known the villa was burning down,
Right.
and when he gets back and he gives her the tickets, gives her both of them. I was like, did he do that because he regretted killing him, or is this just now he realizes there's literally nothing left for Isabella, and he wants the best for pretty much his only surviving family member, right?
I'd like to
And
think he
then,
doesn't regret it. I'd like to think he just took it, did what he thought was necessary and gave her that life, and then and now he's stuck with nothing. I mean, technically he could
right,
die. The volcano is still active. There's fires everywhere. There's no guarantee that he makes it, and there's no power left in that family. So he's starting from scratch, if anything. So
right. I don't know. They didn't say it. I'd like to think Valentina got out. Just because that would be awful, like for the whole
yeah, I think she
Trapani
makes it. She
family.
makes it in my head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so now that was also tragic too, because we have this guy that you love throughout the game until maybe the last 20-30 minutes, and he's that shot where Isabella takes the tickets and leaves, and then you see him turn around and it pans out and the mansion is burning down, and he looks at it like.
Yeah.
That was pretty tragic too, even for a guy that killed the main character, right?
Yeah. Cesare is really good. Starts as just a hole, and I didn't like him. And they did a really good job of just building. He matures. Honestly, he just matures into he has to take things more seriously, and he does, right? And they tell him that.
Yeah.
It's like they call him a boy, so they make fun of him, and he does step up as the years go, and as Enzo goes, he steps up where he needs to as well. So he is he does what you would expect. I guess, the cliche, like, what's the cliche? Cliche would be like the friend saying, okay, like, I understand, go, like, I'll turn a blind eye. That's a cliche. Another cliche is following in line with the code, which is what he did. So either way, we've seen similar things before, but this was tragic. It was really tragic that his friend is, because Enzo had it. Enzo easily could have escaped, he was hurting or like injured, but he could have escaped, met with Isabella, and they would have been totally good. Cesare literally got in the freaking way.
Yeah. And honestly, I think in my headcanon, like, I think that would have played out that way in real life had something like that happen, and maybe something did happen like that, But
I think so.
In real life, I think that's how it would have went too.
Yeah.
Now, getting to the final part, I was not expecting this at all, but they did the thing. I even said it, like, when the camera pans out in that cutscene after Enzo dies and it goes back to Isabella at the house, and it pans out, and I'm like, oh, they did the thing. You're playing as Isabella, and my God, did they do that well? Because that could have been just, a minute and a half, but it was a solid, like, 15 minutes, and it was filled with tension, taking out. Now, I know you had mentioned this too, and I really didn't think about it just because I was caught up in the situation. The reminiscence of The Last of Us, right? Where Ellie fights, David. I forget his name now, David at the end. Yeah. Very, very reminiscent of that, but Tino is a bastard. I wanted that guy dead like so many times, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, and also it kind of showed how wild and crazy she can get because she grew up in the life, right? She's not gonna just fall down, you know what I mean? Like, she stood up to these men and got out of there, and I just thought it was really, really well paced and done for that, for like a, handing the reins off to a new character at the end, which we've seen before, but I feel like this was done really, really well.
Yeah, you want to strike a good balance. Like, she can be capable, she's been around, but you don't want to make her this assassin. I also wouldn't have liked it if they kept going, where it's like, okay, she's just getting better and better with the knife. Like, she can just take it. Like, when she killed the one guy, when he grabs her on the ladder, I said to myself, that better be it. Like, I don't want her just going around and start killing, because that's just not. She's not going to become that, and I don't want her to become. Just as a character, she shouldn't become that. So yeah, I really, even though that was like The Last of Us, literally ripped. Uncharted, they definitely took from Naughty Dog, which I'm totally cool with. I think Red Dead, Naughty Dog, or Rockstar, I guess in that way. You can see the inspiration. I think this is how it should be. 10-hour game, does its own stuff very well, which is the story and characters. That's what you know of Mafia and Hangar 13, and then you also, you're taking inspiration from what are these nice action-y adventure games that everybody loves, and we'll do them too. So I think they struck a awesome balance. But yeah, I wanted Tino to die too. He was cool for like maybe 10 minutes. Like I liked him for maybe, and then when he kills the guy outside the church with that, then that was like, okay, he's evil again.
My God.
He was cool right before then. Like whatever mission was before that, I thought he was kind of okay. And that was the only time I liked him, is I didn't like him all the way up to that point. And then when they did the church thing, I said, okay, I hate him again. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but we say we hate him, but he fantastic performance.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Like
He's
an
amazing character. Like he's just so he's there for a purpose. He does that thing very, very well. Organized and he's the heartless person that you need. As part of your family tree.
Character. Yeah, you need that son of a bitch character in stories like this for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty much it. We've pretty much hit on everything. Is there anything else you wanted to add that we didn't talk about?
Amazing game. one of the best of the year, and I still believe the best.
For sure.
I honestly think it's easily the best Mafia game. I mean, it's recency bias, perhaps. I think this game will age quite well, because even if the visuals or combat, none of the combat has ever aged well. So it's like, you're left with the story and characters, and I think that is elite, just like they've honestly always been. Like you said, Mafia 3, there is a good story and characters there. It's just it's wildly buried amongst everything else. And I still think it's the weakest easily story characters of the three. But it's always been the best thing that they can do in these games, and I think that's here. Obviously, if you can make like an hour-long spoiler cast on it, you've done the story really well.
Seriously, and I could go for another hour, but I know we're short on time. But yeah, I agree. I would put this at masterpiece level video game overall. Story is like 75% of that, but I do think that the gameplay has evolved really, really nicely, especially the combat.
Yeah.
A lot more visceral and cinematic. And I love what they did with the HUD too. Very, very minimalistic. And me, I prefer no HUD, right? So, I actually did play one mission with no HUD, no reticule, no nothing. So, and I had a blast. So, anyway, I'll let you get going. And I really, again, thank you for joining me to talk about this place, in this game that's going to have a very special place in my heart. And it also brings me hope for an actual Mafia 4 too, because they really moved in a good direction with this title, and I hope they continue, which I believe they will. So if you guys don't know Alex from Podcasts Now, I don't know how you would not know this guy, but he's been a lot of help with me in my journey, and I'm going to have he has 3 channels, so I'm going to have them all linked in the description so you can check them out if you have not heard. Really good content, and posts like a maniac. So until then, we'll say our goodbyes, and it's been Applerski. Please like, comment, subscribe, and catch you guys on the next video.
Mi chiamo mamma.